Just fake some evidence of her cheating, squeeze out some alimony, and get a divorce.
Wow, Monica, you're a real schemer.
I was in the kitchen, listening to my husband and daughter's horrifying conversation. Neither of them knew I was there. Holding my breath as I listened, I was shocked to realize just how much my own family despised me. But at the same time, a feeling close to resignation started to take root. My daughter and husband have always looked down on me. I had desperately tried to change our family dynamics, doing everything I could, but it seemed completely meaningless. Well, I guess that's it. After they left, I muttered those words without thinking. Then, I said my final goodbye to this hellish house. My name is Katherine Jackson, a 47-year-old working mother. I had always been patient since I was little. When I was in second grade, I stubbornly endured feeling unwell, only for it to worsen to the point where I had to be hospitalized. My parents and older sister scolded me for it. My patience often backfires on me. Even when I realized that my boyfriend at the time was cheating on me, I kept telling myself that if I just endured it, things would stay peaceful. As a result, he left me and chose the other woman. I'm done with relationships. That's what I thought, but I still wanted to get married. So, right after my boyfriend dumped me, I went straight to a matchmaking agency and signed up immediately. That's where I met Robert, and we got married. Robert was the same age as me, so we had a lot in common to talk about. He was calm and kind, and being with him felt comfortable. I never developed romantic feelings for him, but I thought, if I'm going to get married, someone like him would be ideal. It seemed Robert felt the same way, and we quickly started dating seriously. Then, a year into our relationship, Robert proposed, and we got married. At that time, we were both 27. I thought I had finally found happiness, but reality wasn't that simple. At first, Robert seemed like a good guy, but after we got married, he gradually started to change. Once we moved in together, I somehow ended up doing all the housework. But since I worked full-time, handling everything on my own was a huge burden. Tonight, like every other night, I found myself sighing as I cleaned up after dinner alone. Meanwhile, Robert finished eating, sprawled out on the couch, and kept scrolling through his phone. Hey, Robert, I work and am busy. You could help with the chores a little, don't you think? But his response was,
I don't know anything about housework. You're way faster at it, so it makes more sense for you to do it, right?
no, that's not what I mean. If you don't know how, I can teach you. Robert let out a short, mocking laugh and then said something unbelievable.
I work way harder every day since I'm a man, so you should at least help out a little too.
He was basically saying that, as a woman, my job wasn't that important. His words were so awful that I was too stunned to respond. Seeing me stay silent, Robert must have thought I agreed with him because he just went back to looking at his phone without lifting a finger to help. When we were dating, he never talked like this. He used to respect me. But after getting married, it was like he had me locked down and no longer needed to hide his true colors. Even so, Robert celebrated anniversaries appropriately, and if I asked, he helped with everything except housework. But when I asked him to do something troublesome, he gave me an annoyed look. Still, it wasn't enough of a reason to consider divorce. I figured if I took my time, I could gradually get him to start helping with the housework. Then, I found out I was pregnant. It was 2 years after we got married, when I was 30. And right after I turned 31, I gave birth to a healthy baby. She was a beautiful little girl who looked just like me. With our new family, I should have been at the peak of happiness. But that wasn't the case. Oh, I've got a fever again. After giving birth, I started getting sick more often. I had heard that pregnancy and childbirth could change women's bodies significantly, but I never expected my health to decline this much. Even while feeling weak and dizzy, I did my best to take care of my daughter, Monica. I couldn't do anything beyond that, so I tried to let Robert know.
Sick again? I've been thinking for a while. Are you just faking it?
Robert seemed to think that pregnancy and childbirth weren't a big deal. When I came home after giving birth to Monica, our house was a complete mess because Robert didn't know how to do any chores. But instead of looking guilty, he just said,
Well, I'll leave the cleanup to you.
even though I had just given birth and hadn't regained my strength, he expected me to clean the entire house. And every time my health took a turn for the worse, he made it painfully obvious how much of a burden he thought I was. He never once seemed worried about me.
Oh well, I guess I'll just ask Mom to help again.
Hearing that made me grimace. Robert's mother had lost her husband years ago and now lived about 10 minutes away from our apartment. She had asked us to move in with her multiple times, but I always found a way to turn her down. That's because she was constantly cruel to me. Maybe she felt like I had stolen her only son from her. As soon as Robert called, she showed up at our place right away.
All right, Grandma's here.
Robert's mother let herself in using the spare key he had given her without my knowledge, walking in like she owned the place. With a bright, cheerful smile, she beamed at Monica. Then, turning to me, she smirked mockingly.
My goodness, with a mother like this, poor Monica. Well, whatever. I'll take care of her again today, so you stay out of the way.
She said it like she was doing me a favor, but she could barely hide her excitement. It was clear that seeing the daughter-in-law who stole her only son suffering from illness brought her genuine joy. Besides, if I get sick, she can have her cute first grandchild all by herself. For her, it was nothing but a win-win situation. This can't go on. I couldn't let someone as twisted as her take care of Monica. I was still on maternity leave, but if my health kept failing, it'd end up taking too many sick days and causing trouble at work. The truth was, Robert's salary wasn't that great. Robert didn't make enough to support both Monica and me. If I wanted Monica to live comfortably without any struggles, I had to work hard. Determined, I started going to the doctor regularly to fix my health issues. I also exercised as much as I could to rebuild my strength. By the time Monica entered elementary school, my health had completely recovered, and I no longer collapsed from exhaustion.
Mom, hurry up and tie my hair now.
Monica had completely picked up my mother-in-law's attitude and started looking down on me. To her, I wasn't a mother. I was just a convenient servant. All right, I got it. But that's not the way to ask someone for help. Even so, she was still little, and her selfish demands were somewhat endearing. I kept correcting Monica whenever I could, trying to raise her properly. But it seemed I was already too late. Instead of me, the strict mother who scolded her, Monica grew attached to my mother-in-law. She spoiled Monica endlessly, buying her sweets and toys whenever she wanted. Whenever I tried to put a stop to it, my mother-in-law would snap back twice as hard.
It's my money. I can spend it however I want. You have no right to tell me what to do.
With this constant hostility, I eventually stopped saying anything. Meanwhile, Monica kept growing. She never listened to my warnings, and before I knew it, she was in the upper grades of elementary school. By then, she had grown sharp-tongued, and the insults toward me became more frequent.
Shut up. Stay out of it, Mom.
Even the slightest correction would get this kind of reaction. Once, in a fit of rage, Monica even hit me. Realizing that things were seriously spiraling out of control, I tried desperately to rebuild a normal parent-child relationship, but nothing changed. Before I knew it, Monica had become a high schooler. Then, one day, Monica was already a senior in high school, but still hadn't decided on her future and was just drifting through life. Worried about her, I said this. Monica, have you thought about your future? No matter where you decide to go, you should start studying seriously. If you want to attend a private university, don't worry. I've already saved up enough for you. I said it out of concern for Monica. But the moment she heard my words, her face twisted with rage.
Shut the hell up. Stay out of my business.
She screamed at me, then suddenly shoved me with full force. Because of how much my mother-in-law had spoiled her with food since she was little, Monica had grown into a big, strong girl. When she pushed me, I was thrown hard against the wall. Ouch! A sharp, intense pain shot through me, so overwhelming that I couldn't make a sound. I collapsed to the floor, curling up in agony. Monica didn't even try to help me. She just looked down at me like I was nothing more than trash. After a while, my pain began to subside, and I somehow managed to get back on my feet. Monica was already gone. It wasn't bad enough to go to the hospital, but the thought of what could have happened if I had hit my head in the wrong spot sent a chill down my spine. Monica never apologized to me, and I knew this wasn't something I could just ignore. So, I decided to talk to Robert about it.
This is your fault for butting in. Monica's got everything under control, so there's nothing to worry about.
He immediately blamed me and refused to take the conversation seriously. After that, I became terrified of Monica and stopped talking to her altogether. I often wondered if it was okay to act this way toward my own daughter, but every time I thought about speaking up, the fear of being hit again kept me silent. But I know I can't just let this go on. I knew I had to find a way to change this situation, but no good ideas came to mind. Every day, I just sighed more and more. Eventually, Monica managed to get into college. She didn't take her studies very seriously, so even though it wasn't a top university, I was relieved that she was able to enter the college. Maybe because I had stopped talking to her, Monica began treating me like I didn't exist. That didn't mean she took care of herself, though. She still ate the meals I cooked and wore the clothes I washed before heading off to school. At this point, I had become nothing more than a convenient servant to her. And maybe because Monica acted this way, Robert and my mother-in-law had also started ignoring me lately. My mother-in-law would still show up at our house unannounced, but whenever she brought gifts, it was obvious she never included anything for me. I didn't say a word about it. I just silently brewed tea for everyone, as always. I knew this daily life was completely wrong, but since there was no direct harm, I just accepted the situation as it was. It was better than saying something unnecessary, getting hit, and feeling the pain. Oh, right. Tomorrow is Monica's birthday. Looking at the calendar, I suddenly remembered. Monica ignored me completely, but she always finished every meal I cooked. Back when Robert and I had just gotten married and were still on good terms, he used to compliment my cooking all the time. Even my mother-in-law, who constantly nitpicked my housework, had never once complained about my cooking. If nothing else, my cooking skills were the one thing my family acknowledged. I should make her birthday dinner this year. Ever since Monica was little, I had always cooked a special, extravagant meal for her birthday. And on this day alone, Monica would actually smile and enjoy her food. Lately, she ate without showing any emotion, but she never left anything on her plate. At least on her birthday, I could feel like I was still part of the family. Did I already have all the ingredients in the pantry? Our pantry was next to the kitchen. It was a small room where we stored food supplies. Since it was out of sight from the kitchen, Monica used to hide and play there a lot when she was little. I stepped inside and started checking the shelves, making a list of the missing ingredients. Just then,
Ah, she's not here.
Did she go out somewhere?
Monica and Robert walked into the kitchen.
Oh well, I'll make us some tea.
Thanks, Dad.
It seemed like they had come for a drink. I hurried to step out of the pantry, but the conversation I overheard made me freeze in place.
Hey, Dad. When are you finally going to divorce her?
Well, do you really want me to divorce her, Monica?
Of course. Just living in the same house as her stresses me out. I wish she'd disappear. Even Grandma says all the time that she wants Mom gone.
Hearing Monica's true feelings so suddenly, I felt the blood drain from my face. I knew she didn't like me, but I never imagined she found my very presence unbearable.
But if I'm the one to initiate the divorce, he'll have to split my assets with her.
Oh, really? That sounds annoying. Oh, I've got an idea. Just fake some evidence of her cheating. Take her for as much alimony as possible and divorce her.
Monica's voice was bright and cheerful, as if she had come up with some brilliant plan.
Take her for everything she's got. And make sure she has to keep paying child support for me too. That's the only thing she's useful for, making her cough up money. If you need fake evidence, I'll help set it up.
At Monica's outrageous suggestion, Robert laughed heartily, truly enjoying the conversation.
Monica, you're a real schemer.
Right? Just think about it seriously. I mean, Dad, do you really want to be stuck with that old hag for the rest of your life?
Well, yeah, just imagining having to look at that miserable face forever is enough to make me depressed.
After a while, their footsteps faded as they walked away. Once they had completely left the kitchen, I slowly stepped out of the pantry. Overhearing their true feelings by accident, I was initially struck with shock, as if I had been hit by lightning. But almost immediately, I calmed down. I had never really been treated as part of this family. In fact, maybe I hadn't even been treated as a human being. I had endured everything, thinking that as long as I kept quiet, I could maintain some kind of peace. Maybe it was because of my patience that I had lasted this long. But I had finally reached my limit. I kept my presence hidden as I quietly stepped out of the kitchen and into the hallway. Apparently, they went out. Without hesitation, I went to my room and stuffed a few days' worth of clothes into my suitcase. Then, I hurriedly left the house. After leaving the house, I headed to my childhood home, which was a bit farther away. My childhood home, about an hour's drive away, was now where my older sister and her husband lived. Since our parents had already passed away, my sister, Emily, had inherited the house.
Catherine, what's going on? Oh my God, your face is completely pale. Hurry inside. Jake, Hannah, help her with her luggage.
As soon as I arrived, my sister's entire family was already outside waiting for me. I had called ahead to say I was coming, and they must have sensed from my voice that something was seriously wrong. They all looked worried as they waited for me.
Auntie Catherine, are you okay?
Catherine, I brought you something warm to drink. Take your time and relax.
As I sat in the living room, I finally let out a deep sigh of relief. When I finally calmed down, I began to tell them all about what had happened.
That's unbelievable. How could they be so cruel?
I see Catherine from time to time, but I haven't seen Robert or Monica in years. I had no idea things had gotten this bad.
I visited my childhood home occasionally and kept in touch with my sister and her husband. Robert and Monica used to come along in the past, but they started disliking my family simply because they were mine. For the past few years, they haven't visited my childhood home at all.
I can't believe they treated Auntie Catherine like that. I'll never forgive them.
Anna was furious, as if it had happened to her personally. Hearing her words, I couldn't hold back my tears. More than my own household, my sister's family was the one truly looking out for me. The moment I realized that in this home, I was treated as a real human being, my tears started flowing uncontrollably.
You can stay as long as you want. This is your home too.
Emily, thank you. And Jake, Hannah, thank you both so much. I'm sorry for the trouble.
There's no need to apologize.
Jake smiled warmly. He was my sister's senior in her high school club, and he had been devoted to her ever since. I couldn't help but think, I wish I had found someone as kind as Jake. As I sat there, overwhelmed by my sister's family's kindness, tears welled up in my eyes again. That night, for the first time in a long while, I felt completely at peace. Before going to bed, I checked my phone and saw countless messages from Monica and Robert. But I ignored them and went to sleep. The next day, my phone was bombarded with even more calls, but I ignored those too. As I stayed at my childhood home, I focused on healing my wounded heart and enjoying a peaceful life. Thankfully, my workplace wasn't too far from here, so commuting wasn't a problem. In fact, without having to take care of Robert and Monica, I actually had more free time than before. I used that extra time to start preparing for the next chapter of my life. And just like that, 2 weeks passed since I returned home.
Wow, today was exhausting. Since it's the weekend, should we go out to eat?
Great idea. I'm in.
Both my sister and her husband worked full-time, and Hannah was commuting to college from home. That day, everyone had a long day at work or school, and the idea of cooking dinner this late felt like too much. So, Emily suggested eating out, and everyone excitedly started getting ready. I had fully blended into their family, and I was genuinely looking forward to going out for dinner. But just as we were about to leave, the doorbell suddenly rang, shattering our peaceful weekend.
What the hell are you two doing here?
Emily was the first to react and headed to the door, but her voice came out cold and firm. Sensing something was wrong, I quickly hurried to the entrance. There were Robert and Monica.
Please, let me talk to Catherine.
I had expected them to show up just to insult me again, but surprisingly, they looked exhausted, completely different from what I had imagined. Not only me, but also Emily seemed to wonder, and she gave me a puzzled look. Frowning as well, I gave her a small nod in response. Robert and Monica were led into the living room, where Emily and I sat across from them. Since there weren't enough chairs, Jake and Hannah remained standing, glaring at the two of them.
So, what do you want?
Emily's voice was sharp, laced with irritation. Robert, looking like he was about to cry, started explaining.
Ever since Catherine left, my house has been a disaster. We've been eating takeout nonstop, and now my stomach's all messed up. The laundry keeps piling up, and we're running out of clean clothes. So filthy that there's barely any room to walk.
How do you even manage to wreck a house that badly in just 2 weeks? I wondered if these two were some geniuses in the worst possible way. Then Monica chimed in, trying to sound pitiful.
I'm so sick of eating takeout food. Everything is too salty, and now I've gained weight, and my skin's breaking out. Hey, how much longer are you planning to stay here? Hurry up and come back now.
No, you've always been on the heavier side. I almost blurted out, but held my tongue. Before I could say anything, Hannah spoke up for me.
Oh, so you've gained weight, Monica? Well, you haven't changed much in the past, so don't worry about it. Or maybe you've just been steadily gaining weight over the years since we last saw each other.
Since they were both girls and close in age, Hannah had never gone easy on Monica. But she never said anything cruel without a reason. This time, she was clearly lashing out because she was furious over how Monica had treated me. Hearing this from Hannah, who had always had a flawless figure, Monica's face turned bright red. A mix of anger and embarrassment flashed across her face.
How could you say that, Hannah? I've been going through so much stress.
Realizing she couldn't win with words, Monica covered her face with both hands. But it was obvious she wasn't actually crying. Since she was a child, she made a scene of crying whenever it didn't go her way. She's still pulling this act even as a college student. I watched her with cold indifference.
Oh, come on, Monica. It's painfully obvious you're not actually crying. That's embarrassing. Just stop. You're a college student now, aren't you?
Emily's sharp words made Monica lower her hands in surprise.
See, you're not even crying. And by the way, why are you acting like the victim here? The real victim is your mom.
Hannah's blunt way of speaking was clearly something she had inherited from Emily. Jake, on the other hand, was always calm and never raised his voice, no matter what happened. In a way, he balanced Emily out perfectly. But Monica had never been spoken to this harshly by Emily before. Emily had always had her thoughts about the way Monica treated me, but she held back, thinking it wasn't her place to interfere with how I raised my own child. But now, she wasn't holding back at all.
So you were plotting to fake evidence of her affair and squeeze out alimony, huh? I can't believe you even thought of something so disgusting. And I've also heard everything else you've done to my sister. Do you even realize that what you did is a crime?
Monica panicked and looked at me. She hadn't expected that I had overheard that conversation in the kitchen.
Mom, why aren't you saying anything?
That's right. I hadn't spoken a single word since this all started. No matter what Monica or Robert said, I just stared at them with an expressionless gaze. Before we sat down, Emily had whispered to me,
You don't need to say a word. Just do to them what they did to you. Let them finally understand what they've put you through.
and so I continued to ignore them completely.
Mom, say something, please.
Monica desperately pleaded, but I remained silent. Then, Robert, looking irritated, finally spoke up.
Hey, why are you ignoring your daughter? You're being childish.
Surprisingly, it was Jake who snapped back at him.
Monica and Robert, you've both ignored Catherine for years, haven't you? So why do you get to put yourselves above her and blame her now? You have no right to say that. How does it feel to be on the receiving end for once?
Both Emily and I, along with Hannah, looked completely shocked. Jake was usually calm and collected, but now he was visibly angry.
You dumped all the household responsibilities on Catherine while you did whatever you pleased. That's not what a family does. If anyone here is being childish, it's you. You can't even keep your home livable without her. That's not how an adult behaves, but how a helpless child acts.
At first, Emily was just as surprised as I was, but she quickly nodded in agreement.
He's right. If you can't even take care of yourselves, you don't get to call yourselves adults. And another thing, you waited 2 whole weeks before coming here. Why didn't you come right away after Catherine left?
We didn't know where Catherine had gone.
Really? Your first guess should have been her childhood home. Are you seriously telling me you couldn't even figure that out? If that's the case, then I'm honestly disappointed in how little you think.
Emily's sharp words hit like daggers, and Robert's hands trembled slightly. Watching the two of them get completely shut down by my sister's family, I let out a deep sigh. Emily, Jake, and Hannah, thank you for speaking up on my behalf, but I'll handle the rest myself. I have some things I want to say to these two directly. Saying that, I reached into my bag and pulled out a document, handing it to Robert. Let's get a divorce, Robert.
What? Why?
Robert's reaction was one of pure shock, like he had never even considered this possibility. I met his eyes with a cold, unwavering gaze. Why? You've ignored me and treated me like I didn't matter for years. What I don't understand is why you ever thought I wouldn't divorce you.
Well,
Did you really think you could do whatever you wanted to me? That just because I never complained, I was nothing more than a punching bag to you. Well, too bad for you. I'm a human being with emotions. After everything you and Monica have put me through, did you honestly think I wouldn't feel anything? Next, I shifted my gaze to Monica. Monica, I know your personality has been heavily influenced by your grandmother. I tried countless times to correct it, but nothing ever changed. But listen, when you were a child, that might have been an excuse. Now, you're a college student. You can't blame anyone else for the way you choose to act.
Mom?
How long has it been since you last called me that? But it doesn't make me happy at all, because I no longer see you as my daughter." At my words, Monica's eyes widened in shock, her face frozen in disbelief. "Why do you look so shocked? Weren't you the one who wanted me and your father to get divorced? You called me an old hag and said my only worth was making you paychecks. So why act surprised now?" Tears finally welled up in Monica's eyes. I wondered if I should feel sorry for her, but this was entirely the result of Monica's own actions. There was no room for sympathy. And if I softened now, Monica would become truly beyond saving. Pushing her away was the last lesson I could teach her.
I'm not getting a divorce.
Robert's voice shook as he tried to refuse. Without a word, I reached into my bag and pulled out a sealed envelope. "This contains all the evidence of your affairs."
What?
Cheating is a valid reason for divorce. No matter how much you refuse, it won't change a thing. That's right. Robert had been cheating on me all along. I had known about it, but I never confronted him. Still, I figured the evidence might come in handy someday, so I secretly gathered proof of his affairs. Robert must not have even tried to hide it, so I was able to collect enough evidence to fill an entire envelope.
Dad, you were cheating?
No, it's not like that. This was just messing around. It didn't mean anything.
His face turned pale as he scrambled to make excuses to Monica. But Monica shoved him away.
You're disgusting. Don't come near me.
Oh my, looks like we finally agree on something. Yes, I also find you utterly repulsive. Just standing this close to you makes me nauseous. Hearing both Monica and me call him disgusting, Robert's eyes welled up with tears. Robert tried to brush off his affairs as just messing around, but that excuse wasn't going to work. And if you refuse to go through with our divorce, I'll take you to court. I want to divorce you badly enough to do whatever it takes. Oh, and of course, I'll be giving you full custody.
Wait, Mom. I don't want to live with Dad.
I don't want to live with you either. Being around your father makes me feel sick, but being around you feels like it's eating a hole through my stomach from stress. Please, just let me go. I don't want to be part of this family anymore. At my desperate cry, Monica froze in shock before tears started streaming down her face. She finally realized that no matter what she said, I wasn't going to change my mind. This is the result of your own actions. You brought this upon yourselves. I hope you carved that into your hearts. Neither of them said a word in response. They just kept crying. Under the watchful eyes of my sister's family, Robert finally signed the divorce papers. Still sobbing, both he and Monica were then thrown out by Emily and the others.
All of Catherine's things that are still in that house, so she'll be coming to get them tomorrow. And if you try anything, you won't get off easy.
At Emily's words, the two of them showed no reaction and simply walked away. The next day, as promised, I went to the house, but the mess was far worse than I had imagined. I felt dizzy just looking at it. At least my room is still intact. Letting out a deep sigh, I started packing my belongings. Not long after, my mother-in-law showed up, probably after hearing everything from Robert.
Are you really divorcing Robert?
Yes, that's right. Isn't this what you always wanted? Now that I'm gone, you can live in this house with your son and granddaughter. Your wish has finally come true. However, my mother-in-law was clearly flustered when she saw the chaotic state of the house. Despite the mess, she hadn't lifted a finger to help. She wasn't particularly good at housework either, and the house she was currently living in was always in a state of disarray. That's why she had regularly called me over to do the cleaning for her. Now that I was gone, it didn't take long for her to realize that living in this house would be a nightmare.
Wait, why don't we rethink this?
My mother-in-law's words made Robert and Monica look at me, their eyes filled with hope. But I confronted her with the reality without mercy. I've hated you for a long time, you know. Do you really think I'm going to listen to someone like you? And by the way, I've already submitted the divorce papers before coming here. Myself and your son are no longer connected. We're strangers now. At my words, Robert and Monica burst into tears. My mother-in-law was completely flustered, and it was impossible to have a conversation with her. In the midst of all this chaos, my sister's family and I swiftly finished packing. I didn't have many belongings to begin with, so it only took about an hour to gather everything. Robert and Monica just stood there, stunned, watching me leave. Well then, goodbye forever. Oh, and I'll be filing for alimony through my lawyer, so make sure to cooperate, or things will get much messier for you. With a bright smile on my face, I left the hellish house I had lived in for so long. Afterward, I returned to Emily's house, and while looking for a new place, I filed for alimony from Robert. I also made sure to demand payment from his mistress, instructing them both to settle everything in a lump sum. A while later, after confirming the payment, I finally felt relieved, knowing it was all over. According to rumors, the house I once lived in is in a state of disarray beyond imagination. Robert's salary alone isn't enough to cover their living expenses, and they are apparently in a very tough spot. Monica had said she wanted to continue attending college, but with Robert's income alone, that would be impossible. My mother-in-law had relied on financial support from Robert, but that was only possible because I was the one bringing in the money. Now, with nothing but her pension to rely on, her life is becoming increasingly difficult. Well, whatever happens to them doesn't concern me anymore. I am finally enjoying the freedom I've gained, and am thinking about how to live the rest of my life. But I know I have a strong support system in my sister's family, so no matter what happens, I'll be fine. If anything happens to them in the future, it will be my turn to protect them. I will continue to live my life with my beloved family, doing my best every step of the way.